All right. So the last class we did an overview on all of Google's various apps. And then at the end of that, we asked what people would be more interested in learning about. We had a three-way tie for Gmail, Docs, and Calendar. So we're going to go over those in a bit more detail today. I'll also show you the interface and walk you around kind of what they look like. At periodic times, we have, natural stopping points so people can ask questions. You can also put questions in the meeting chat, or you can raise your hand or let Rebecca know, and we will stop the presentation for a little bit in order to address the questions. We also have time set aside at the end for more specific questions, or if you have a general question that you would just kind of like to be answered. This is more of a free form class, so definitely feel free to ask questions at any time. And as always, you'll get a link to the presentation after it's ended. You'll also get a link to the slides, but there are far less slides today, mainly because it's a more of a show and tell type situation for this presentation. The first one we will go into is Google Docs. This is an online word processor for creating and editing documents. You can think of this as Google's version of Microsoft Word, which vastly more people are familiar with. You get to Google Drive, or sorry, Google Docs, if you just go to docs.google.com, and you'll see a interface like this, where it's basically showing you a list of your recent documents, and it will ask if you want to start a new document as well. If you are looking for documents that you've already created, those would probably be, if you're using the Google ecosystem, in Google Drive, which is the triangle icon. And to access pretty much every Google app you would want to have access to, you go to the top right of your Google page and hit the 3x3 dots. If you open up Google Drive, here you can see My Drive. You can see your files and documents kind of in a more traditional format, where you can go into individual folders in order to find the document you're looking for. So if we go to Google Docs, we can go with a blank document. It starts off as untitled.
I'm sorry.
So to create a new document, if you're just in the normal Docs homepage, you just hit New Document, Blank Document on the left-hand side. It has a plus icon. And then you're given kind of the starting point, just a blank document. On the left-hand side, you have document tabs. This is kind of more advanced-ish. If it's something you're interested in, we can definitely go over it more. But it's mostly useful for kind of organizing your document. Just like a Microsoft Word document, you can type whatever you want. It has spell check and some form of grammar checker built in. You can highlight whatever text you want. You can go to the top bar and select the font. It has a lot of different fonts. You can also select the size, just like Word. Google didn't really reinvent the wheel at all. Sometimes people will ask, well, how do you save the document? And the answer is that it will save the document as you go automatically. So if I just start typing and you're very kind of observant, you can see at the top right here, it says saving. And then whenever it has the cloud icon with a check mark in it, that means that it's been saved. So all of what I'm typing, Google is realizing that it's new information, and it is actively trying to save it. As soon as I'm done typing, It will take a couple seconds and it will finalize the save. In order to edit the title of the document, you go to the top left where it says Untitled Document and click on it. Now what will happen is Google will automatically try and title this document for you, and it will generally title it the first sentence.
On 1 second, I just need to get a.
That's just like Word that way.
To go down to docs. Like that. Double click that up. Please just here.
Okay, good.
Now you're there. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. So if you want to rename your document, you can go to the top left where the title currently is. You can highlight it and you can change the document title. Hit return and it will save it. Sometimes people like to make lists. And then the question becomes, how do you do bullet points? Or numbers? Or letters? Basically anything you want. So what you do whenever you try and create a list is you create it. At least that's what I do. And then I will select what I want to be indented with a bullet point. I go up to the main menu bar with all the different functions, and I have a couple options. I can create a checklist, I can create a bulleted list, or I can create a numbered list. Next to each one of these options is an arrow that's pointing down. If you select this, you will get an additional contextual menu that gives you more options. So, for example, if I select the down arrow near the numbered list, it gives me a couple different options of how it will indent and what the numbers or letters will be. The first option, it kind of shows you, is a 1 with a period. Then the next line would be a 2 with a period. If you indent it additionally, it will switch to letters. The next option is instead of periods, it will have the parentheses, right? Yeah. Next option is it will do stick with numbers and it goes from 1 to 1.1 to 1.2 to 2. But it kind of gives you a little outline of what it's going to do on this page. So you just select the one you like and it will put it together. In order to make any changes to it, you can always click where you want to add something, hit return, and it will create a new item. So under bullet points, I want an indented action. So I'll press tab, that will indent it and give me a list under bullet points as an option. So I can type whatever I want here. And then if I hit return, it will go back to being on the same level it was at. So you can see it's marking the list as 1, then 2, then A, B, then 3. If I want what I'm currently typing to not be indented, if I want it to be the base level, I would hold Shift and Tab, and that would send it backward and help me create the bullet point list. If at any time you just want to undo it, you can select what you have, re-click on numbered list, and it will remove all of the formatting. Sometimes people want to change how the document is formatted in basically where the text is coming from, whether it be left, middle, or right. Docs also has that option. If we go up to the top, there's an option for align and indent. If I select it, it gives me left align, center, right, and justify. So same options, you just click on it and it will do what you tell it to. It also supports all the shortcuts you've learned to love in Word. So B is for bold. On a Mac, you hold Command. Command B, Command I will italicize it. Um, anything you want. If you don't want to use shortcuts, you can also go to the top bar where it has those as straight up options. Bold, italic, underline. Does anyone have any specific questions or questions in general about Google Drive/Documents?
I have a question, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Tish, you went muted.
You just muted yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if I create a document in Google Docs, can I send it over to Word or vice versa?
Of course. So, once you're done with your Google Doc, or if you want to share it, you can share it in a couple different ways. One way is you can send people the link directly, and then they can access the document. One of the benefits of sharing a link is that will allow the person who you're sending it to, if you give them permission, to edit the document with you. One of the reasons why this can be nice is it means both people are working on the same document. So you don't have that email chain of sending documents back and forth, and then you may accidentally grab the wrong one. However, I still also send documents via email. And the way to do that, in terms of converting this to a Word document first, is you go to File, you go to Download, and then you have all the options it will give you. So the first option is a Microsoft Word document. This is generally what people will be selecting. The other one people like is PDF document. So you can create this as a PDF straight away. The reason why you would like a PDF document is it makes it less likely that someone's going to try and edit it, but it also retains all the formatting that you've just created. So PDF can be very useful if you're taking it somewhere to print, because the machine that you're using to print won't try and interpret the formatting you've created. One thing that can happen if you export as a Microsoft Word document, formatting might not be exact between Word and Docs. So in this example, I will hit Microsoft Word, and it will ask me if I want to allow downloads. I hit yes, allow, and now it has downloaded my Word document. So uh, it'll save it wherever you tell it to. By default, it will generally go to your downloads folder. So if I go down here to my downloads folder and click on library presentation, it will now open the document in Word on my desktop. And you can see that the document looks pretty much the same. We didn't do anything fancy in here. So it looks the exact same. It still has the same formatting. It still has the same uh, text type. For some reason, I'm blanking on what that's called. But that's how we save it as a Word document. You may be asking to yourself, how do I open a Word document in as a Google Doc? Great question. So, couple of different ways. I generally like to give people just one way to do something though, just to make it a little bit easier. So the way I would do this is I'd open up a new tab and I would go to drive.google.com. My drive, I'll go to library, it's just a folder. And now I have a folder. What I like to do is I like to go to downloads, find the document, and just drag it into the window. I release, it will upload the the Microsoft Word document into the folder, and now I can open it by double clicking. What you see here is it is converting the Word document into a uh, into a Google Drive, Google Doc, and it has converted it into a Google Doc. So now I can edit it and it will continue to save. And then if I want to put it back down onto my computer as a Word document, I would just file, download Microsoft Word.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
It's, I forget what step you were on, but when your script changed into a black background, I mean, that's not good for me. Is there a way that you can change that background color?
Oh, in
I
your
forget
Word,
what you were
Tim,
doing.
yeah.
Oh, that's how I have my Word set up. My Microsoft Word, it's in dark mode, so it has the black background. So that's just a preference.
Oh, okay, so you can change that. Can
Yep.
you do it with Mac?
Yeah, that's what I'm using. I'm using Mac.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
what did you, I don't know, which option did you go to? I wouldn't want it to be black. I'd like the black on white print. But
Yep.
where did you go to change that?
You would just go to options in the file menu. Won't really dive too much into it because that's more of a Google Word thing as opposed to a
Yeah.
Google Doc
So-
thing.
I'll just ask him, can I add the white background? That is the automatic, so it will never change unless you change it.
Okay.
So you don't really have to worry
Okay,
about it.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, we have another question too. Can you go into sharing and permissions?
Of course. So
Cool.
one of my favorite things about Google, the infrastructure, is the sharing capability. So a couple different options. We'll go back to the original document. In the top right-hand corner, you see a nice little share button. Right now, if I hover over that button, it shows that this is private to only me. That means I'm the only person who has access to it. If I either click on this button or click on the arrow button to the right, if you notice the theme popping up, is I can open quick sharing options. So quick sharing options is copy link. If I copy this link and then send it to someone and they click on the link, they will then be able to see the document. If I click on share, it opens up a more robust menu where it allows me to share it to individuals. It allows me to share it to groups. And it also, once again, allows me to copy the link in the bottom left-hand corner. So as I add people, I'm just going to add a whole bunch of fake people. It basically will send them an email with a link to it. And also, if you notice, you can type a little message, but if you notice on the right-hand side, it says editor. If I select that option, I can see viewer, commentator, or editor, commenter. Viewer basically will allow everyone who receives this invite to view the document. The second option will allow people to add annotations to the document so I can see what they want the edits to be. And then the last option is generally what I prefer, and that's editor. That means someone can edit the document. I can hit send, and it would send these people notifications that they have access to my document.
Can you also, Tim, sorry, I missed that. Did you show about sharing it to anybody who has the link? So that anybody, you don't have to even put anybody's email in, you can just send
Yeah.
it, so anybody can see it.
Yep. So if I just go up to share, at the bottom, copy link, and then under general access, it gives you what the link is able to do. So right now, anyone who is given the link can access it. Sorry, anyone with the link can access it. If I do restricted, it means only people who I have added manually in this contextual menu are able to access this document. So the benefit of that is you can create it so that if someone gets the link because you want them to have it, they then can't give that link out to other people who you don't necessarily want to have it. So restricted is more secure. Anyone with the link is more open. It's basically for sharing a document as opposed to having a private document that you share.
Cool, thank you.
So the next part of sharing is what happens if people do bad things and hurt the document. I'm not sure if this is going to be the best example because this document has existed for a short amount of time, but in the top right-hand corner, if you see this little icon, that's a clock with a backwards arrow. It shows you the different version histories. Now, because I'm the only one who's edited the document, it is not particularly profound, but on the right-hand side, you can see two options. And if I hit the down arrow, once again, down arrows are important. It will give me more options. But I can go back in time and see what has happened to the document. So the document was created today at 1:08 p.m. and the current version is 1:26 p.m. If I click this arrow, which is expand detailed versions, I can go through all the different edits I've made and see what happened. The other thing, if you note, is underneath all of them, it says Tim B. So this will also show you who made the changes. So if you share a document to your friends and family, and all of a sudden you look at the document and there is nothing in the document, you can click on this wonderful button and you can see that, Aunt Sue accidentally deleted it. And then you can restore it from before it was deleted. And this happens automatically every single time it saves. In order to restore from one of these previous versions, it gives you this nice little button that says restore this version. And it will then take the version from 1:13 p.m. and revert to that version. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
That's the backward clock, right?
Yep, backward clock in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna close that. One of the things that people ask me a lot is storage. How do I tell, or more importantly, Google will yell at you a lot if you are running out of storage. And Google is incredibly helpful at telling you how to buy more storage. It is very incentivized to have you spend money. So feel free to do that if you want. But if you don't want to do that, um, in the bottom left-hand corner of your Gmail, it will give you a little block of text saying you have used 92% of your available storage, buy more storage now, right? Because on this account, I have not filled it up with stuff, it does not really have that contextual option for me. So I go directly to the source, which is Google One. You can get to this by going to your account and clicking on Google One, or you can just go to one.google.com and it will show you how much storage you have. This account has the free amount, which is 15 gigabytes. And it will show you how much storage you have used right below it, which this account has used 0.53 gigabytes. And it will show you that nice little bar of very little information on this one because there isn't much that's being used. Yes.
Sam, can you remind me how to get there? Is it just type in Google One?
You can just go to one.google.com.
Okay, so right there, you're just gonna type in one.
O-N-E,
Yeah, O-N-E. One.google, perfect.
is that the word one or the number one?
Word one,
Word one.
there we go. Let's see, no thanks.
Sign up for Google One.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yep. So this is the main page for Google One. This is where they try to get you to pay money for stuff.
Yeah, Apple
Uh,
does.
You're not signed in.
Oh,
But on the left-hand side, there is an option for storage, and that is where you can see the storage that you have currently used. What is kind of nice about this little bar in the middle is it will fill up with wonderful colors depending on what you're storing. So right now you can see on this account, I'm using Google Drive, about 0.26 of a gig. On Gmail, I'm once again using 0.26 of a gig, and Google Photos, I'm using 0. But what you can do here is you can see where your storage is going. So by default, a lot of people think that their photos are taking up all of their storage space. You can come here to confirm that. Once you've done that, you can obviously go through and delete photos if you want. But more often than not, what I see happening is Gmail is the culprit.
Yep.
What I like to do is I like to mass delete emails. So the way I do that is a couple of different ways. If I see nothing on this page that I care about, I can just hit this button up here in the top left, which is just the checkbox, and it will select everything, and then I can delete it. But that's pretty dangerous. So what I like to do is I like to search.
And Jim, that check was just what's visible on that page, so you're not like wiping out every other page beyond that.
Correct. It's just items 1 through 24.
Okay,
But what I like to do is I like to go up to the search bar, and then I like to go to show search options, which gives me a lot of different powerful search tools. The main thing I like to do if I'm looking for emails to delete, I like to search by size, which is one of the categories about halfway down. So emails with a size greater than 1 megabyte with attachments, has attachment is an option. This is a search. I can hit search and it will show me all of the emails that fall into that category. The reason why I like this is it will show me basically all of the emails that are large. I can delete hundreds of emails with just text in them, And that would not compare to deleting just one image, one large email with an image attachment. So what I can see is I searched for all emails that have attachment and the email is larger than 1 MB. I only have one option. So I could select it and delete it if I wanted to remove it. And you can select, if you had more than one option, you would be able to select all of them, delete them, move on to the next page. And this is primarily what I do whenever people ask me how to free up storage space. And the answer is search for large emails.
Tim,
Yes.
got a question. When I'm on Mac, when I'm using Mail and I've got my Gmail up, it shows all. Looks different from what you just did. It's my regular stuff. I will, I'll highlight them and delete. And then I find they come back.
So Timmy, I think she's using her desktop, like the mail was on her
Yes,
desktop, not like Gmail.
Not this,
Yeah.
not this, but it is my Gmail account.
It's her Gmail account, but yes, the desktop version of Gmail, not the browser version.
And I would just, highlight all that, delete it, and then I find it comes back.
Yeah.
Either 100 or 500, and then they come right back from me.
So what could be happening is it could be set up using POP, which is one way. And basically what can happen is you can delete something on your computer. Your computer then talks to the server. The server says, hey, we see your computer doesn't have these 100 email messages. Let's put them back on your computer. Which is one of the reasons why when dealing with Google or dealing with even iCloud, I like to tell people just to go online and delete it there because things can go from the cloud to your computer very easily. So if you delete it at the source, which is the cloud, it will then kind of propagate the correct things to all of your devices. But
Yes.
there could realistically be a couple different solutions or scenarios in which if you delete something on your computer, it will come back. Sometimes it's as simple as whenever you delete it, there will be an option that pops up that says, do you want to remove from this computer or from the cloud? And if you click from this computer, then it still exists and it will be brought back down.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never had that, never had it ask me, and I've tried deleting from the cloud and I can't figure that one. So then the cloud wants money.
Yep. The cloud always wants money.
Yep. That's life, I guess.
As it exists today.
Ain't no free lunch.
Yes. When you're looking at Gmail, oftentimes, if you haven't changed any of the default settings, you'll have primary, promotions, social, updates along the top bar. And this is Google's attempt to try and categorize items for you. You can remove them or not. I generally like them, but if you hide them up here, you'll still be able to see them on the left-hand side, which shows your different tags slash categories, I guess they're now called. One of the nice things about categories is it kind of acts like folders if you're more used to Outlook, where you can go specifically into that category and you can see all of the items that are marked as promotion or updates or social. You can also create labels. These are useful for searching. On the left-hand side, you see an option for labels. You can hit plus to create a new label, and then you can assign emails to labels. And you can assign emails to labels with rules or manually. If you have questions about them, I'll go into it. but just know that this is kind of how you can go more in depth with organizing your Gmail inbox is with labels. All right. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about Gmail at this point? All right. Well, one more thing I'll go over. In the top right-hand corner, there is a gear icon. This is settings. If you click on settings, this was how you will change how you see Gmail, so how it's presented to you. Um, you can have density, so default, comfortable, compact. Um, I don't really have very impressive amount of emails of a different variety, so you're not going to see the full experience. But you can see if I click on default, it looks like this. If I click on compact, it will shrink everything down. So it makes it look a little bit more old, kind of.
What's
But
comfortable?
yeah, comfortable is similar to default in terms of the sizing. Comfortable, what it does is it doesn't show you attachments, whereas default, you can kind of see an example right here, photo taking and saving. There is a um, there is a presentation that was created for photos. You can see it right now. If I press comfortable, it goes away. So it kind of gives you a preview on this email has attachments, is the way I look at it. You can also change how your inbox is set up. This is kind of something that you would, in my opinion, kind of click on, see if you like it, go back and forth, figure out what works best for you. But all of this information is in the settings option. And in general, I recommend just kind of playing around with it and see what makes sense for your workflow. If you want even more settings, there's an option for see all settings. And this is where you can get kind of in trouble. Because
Yes,
there's a lot of stuff here that you can do that can mess up how you receive mail, where it goes. You can accidentally hide things. You can import an email address from like a Yahoo account directly into Gmail. You can do all sorts of weird craziness. So unless you have a specific reason to come in this menu, I generally recommend trying to stay away.
can
But
you restore? If you,
generally, yeah, you can generally restore any action you make in here.
okay.
Um, it's just something to be a little careful of.
Lot careful. Jeez.
Can you review how you unsend something you clicked or somehow it mysteriously got sent before you were ready to send it?
So if you're trying to unsend something, I think you have about 5 seconds.
Oh,
It will show up in the bottom left-hand corner. You click on it, and it will delay it going to the outbox and sending. But you have a very short window. There are add-ons or extensions you can put in Gmail that can allow you to um, kind of have a more formalized process for unsending. But all unsending means in this context is not sending until you tell it yes again.
Can you, do that on your phone as well?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I've seen that pop up. Once again, it's in the bottom left-hand corner, and you have to be pretty quick about it.
Well, I use it on my computer, which I love. But I'm finding it didn't transfer automatically to my Gmail on my phone.
Well, I will say you will only see it if you're using the Gmail app itself, not if you're using a different mail app to manage your Gmail.
I was using regular Gmail.
We'll look at it, we'll look at it at the end of class,
Okay.
we'll check it, yeah.
All right. So the biggest thing I like to send with a takeaway for Gmail is utilize search. Gmail was built from a company that specialized in search. Their search functionality is fantastic. So if you ever are looking for an email, instead of trying to remember it was sent to you like 2 months ago, I would just search for something in the email or what the email is about in the search bar. It will generally be able to find it. Composing an email, top left, hit compose. Again, they're not reinventing the wheel here. Recipients, subject, body. If you want to add an item, which is kind of the only confusing thing, is if you want to add something and it is a Google Doc, you would then click on the Insert File Using Drive button to directly add it from your Google Drive, which is where your Google Docs are kept. Whereas if you're trying to add something to an email that is from your computer, you would hit the attach file icon, which is the old school paperclip. All right. Any questions on Gmail? Cool. All right. So the last one we have on the list, and possibly the one I have the most fun with, is Google Calendar. Please remember that this is a very bare bones account, so it is not totally propagated with a Google Calendar, but this is how I have mine set up. On the top left-hand side, it has the Create button, just like Gmail. In the middle, it has my calendar sorted by week. If you prefer a different view for your calendar, that is handled on the top right. Right now it's set to week, so this button says week on it. If I click on it, I can switch it to day, week, month, year, schedule, or 4 days. 4 days is interesting because it just shows you today and then 3 more days. So it kind of gives you the ability to see into the future a little bit, but it's not like week where if you're on a Friday, you don't really see what's going on the next week. Um, so next 4 days can be useful. I personally like to stick with a week. It's just what I'm used to. If you want to go forward in time or backward in time, you go to these buttons up here in the top. So,
Tim,
yep.
how did we get to this calendar?
So you can get to it in a couple ways.
I have a Mac and I have the mail, but I want Gmail. Oh, there it is.
Got it? You
Yeah,
have to put it in the.
mail.google.com. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Yep. In order to get to
calendar.
any Google app from within any other Google app, I generally just recommend clicking on the 3x3 dot thing
Yeah.
in the top right where it
Oh,
says Google
yeah.
Apps. And then you just find what you're looking for. In this case, we're looking for calendar, which is the square with the number in it.
Yeah,
I just select calendar and then it will open up my Google Calendar.
okay, thank you.
Yep. In the top bar, we have today. If we ever click on that, it will take us back to today. The reason why that's useful is right next to it is the left and right buttons. That will go back and forward 1 unit of whatever your calendar view is. So in this case, I am viewing by the week. So if I go back, it will go backwards 1 week. Hit it again, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so on and so forth. If I want to get back to my current day, I can always just hit today and it will take me back to the current view.
Somebody probably shared it with you.
On the left-hand side, we can see a cutout of the month. This is nice because it allows you to kind of quickly search where you want to look. But if you don't like this view, you can hit the contextual menu on the top left that says main menu and show or hide the left-hand side of your calendar. This can be nice, mainly because it will give you more space to view your calendar if things are getting a bit scrunched because you have a lot of data in there. But I generally like to keep it where I can see the left-hand side. All right, so sometimes people run into an issue where they use one calendar for literally everything. And then if they ever want to share that calendar with someone else, or if they ever want to kind of drill down a little bit and separate work from personal, having two calendars really helps facilitate that. The other thing that's kind of nice is you can share one of those calendars with your family. They can also add to it, and then you're able to see what people are doing at any given time. If I go to my calendars on the left-hand side, you can see I have a couple different options. I have Tim B, I have birthdays, flower stuff, tasks, and work. Right now, I only have two selected, so I'm only viewing two of my calendars. One of them is Tim B, and that's my personal calendar. One of them is work, which is in red, and that's my work calendar. I just did air quotes, but you can't see me, so I'll just say that I did air quotes there. What's nice about this is the different calendars are colored differently, which means it's very easy to tell them apart. For today, I created an event called Library, which is in my personal calendar, which is, I guess, purple. And then on Wednesday, I created one that is for the drop-in that is red because that's for work. If I want to see more about what is in those calendar events, I can double click and it will take me to see all the information present in the calendar. I can see that it is from 1 to 2 Eastern Time. I can see the location is the Peterborough Town Library at 2 Concord Street. I have it set to give me a notification 30 minutes in advance. I can see which calendar it is in, which is Tim B. If I wanted to change the calendar that this event is under, I can select that and select a different calendar for me to put this under. I can change what different color I want this to display as, so on and so forth. If I wanted to add someone else to this calendar, I can type in guests and add people to the calendar invite. Then once I hit save, it would then send them a notification that I have added them to this event. Any questions about what I just did?
I have a question. You mentioned that I can share a calendar with someone else. So I would like to share my calendar with my husband. How do I do that?
So if I go to the left-hand side and I look at my work calendar, for example, I can hover over it, and to the right-hand side of where I'm hovering, I can see 3 dots. I will mosey on over there, click on those 3 dots. I will go to settings and sharing. And this is where you can kind of do all of that. This is where you can set the title. This is where you can set the description, time zone, all of that fun stuff. If I want to give someone access, I can scroll down to where it says share with specific people or groups. I can hit add people and groups. And then it will allow me to select someone to share the calendar with. They will then receive an email asking them to accept the invitation, and then they will have access to view the calendar. Once again, as with most of the sharing menus that Google offers, there are additional permissions that you can select. Right here, under permissions, I see all event details. If I click on that, I can do see only free/busy. What this does is it basically just blocks off time in the calendar. So this is useful if you have like an employee who doesn't need to know that you have a dentist appointment, but just needs to know that you're out of the office. See all event details will allow the person to see what the event is. Make changes to events allows the person you're sharing the calendar with to edit a current event and make changes and manage sharing. This basically gives them full permissions to the calendar. It is now a truly shared calendar between your two accounts.
So how would that show up on their phone? They've
So,
accepted your invitation.
yep, if you
And
hit
it
send,
stays
they'll
on
get an
their
email.
phone all the time?
It will show up under here, under calendars, and they can either toggle it on or off. So that's kind of one of the nice things is you can share it with someone, and if they don't necessarily need to see it all the time, they can just have it toggled off, and then they won't see that calendar until they want to, in which case they would toggle it back on.
I have one more question. How do I, in a new year, we're in 2025, how do I bring over all the birthdays that were on my calendar from 2024 into 2025?
Um, do you have them set on your personal calendar under your personal calendar, or do you have them specifically in, for example, a birthday calendar?
No, I just have them set on my calendar.
Unfortunately, if they're not like in the official birthday calendar, which Google automatically creates,
Mhm.
you could go to them, click, double click, sorry, go to where the little calendar icon is about halfway down the page. Instead of Tim B, I would select and I would switch it to you would have birthday visible. The other option is you can set it to be a reoccurring event. So if it happens every year, you can select does not repeat. I could do annually on February 11th, and that way it would just automatically add it to my calendar on February 11th, all the years into the future.
Your anniversary goes there.
Yes, all of the important days I forget. Little.
Okay, so going forward in 2025, when I enter somebody's birthday on my Google Calendar, then I should do this, and then next year it will just
Yep,
appear in
annually.
2026.
The other
Okay,
option you can do is you can just go backwards and just go to previous events and select and set them to annually, and then it will punch them forward for the current year.
okay. Thank
I
you.
mean, I would probably go backwards and add them annually because I know if I tried to do it going forwards, I'd probably forget some.
Okay,
But yeah, um, and that brings up a good point. If you want anything to repeat, this is where it is. It's near the top. You can do daily, weekly on a Tuesday, monthly on the second Tuesday. So these options are sometimes very convenient for committees that will sometimes operate, on the third Thursdays of every month, kind of that sort of thing. So you can set these calendar events to reflect that. If you want to go a little bit crazy, you can always hit custom, and then you get into really like specific things you can do. So repeat every 3 weeks on Tuesday, and it ends after 12 occurrences.
Yeah.
You can do things like that, um, which is very nice. The ends after is very kind of useful. In general, I prefer to just have things last forever until I tell them not to, just so I don't have to think about it, just in case, if you're doing this for a committee, and you're only supposed to have 12 meetings, but you end up with 13, you may, you know, in the future have forgotten that you set it to only last 12 times, and then you'll miss the 13th meeting or something like that. Um, but you can do it as you can make it as complicated as you want.
How far back in time does the calendar information, um, say, does it start cleaning out at some point, or is it always there?
Unless you've changed some settings to only save the past year or two, it will keep everything from when you first opened the Gmail account. Or if you added anything to the Gmail account prior, like you created the Gmail account and then you went back in time and added events, it will also have those too. So basically, any event you've ever added or been invited to and not deleted will stay on your calendar.
And so if I, because on my old Mac, I used to do this and it was awesome. I had the categories by color. So if I just wanted to look at all the house maintenance, I just hit a button and everything else would go away and that would pop up. And, I've never figured it out on the new computer, how to do that, which I guess you're showing us. But if you're starting fresh to add the colors and categories, it's not gonna go back, right? And identify those things that you
Yeah.
like.
So if you have a reoccurring event, um, specifically if you have a reoccurring event and you change one event in that reoccurring event, it will ask you, do you want to apply this to all other events? And then it would.
Okay,
But
but
if
what if it's
it's
not an event? What if it's, it's random maintenance, random medical appointments, is it gonna recognize those or no?
it'll recognize them. Pretty much there was a time when Google Calendar tried to make tasks a thing. As you can see by this old account I have having a task option. But even those were then converted into events on a calendar. So they'd still be there. The one caveat to this is if you're not going directly to calendar.google.com, if you're using something like Outlook or Apple Mail or Apple Calendar to manage it, sometimes those settings will only save data for, 1, 2, 3, 5 years or so. But if you go online, it should have everything. Because sometimes computers that are directly on the eh, sometimes applications that are directly on the computer will only save a certain time frame of data just to not let your computer be bogged down with things from 10 years ago that you're probably not going to want to look at on a regular basis. One thing is if you want to create an event, a couple of different options. I know I said I'd only give you one, but calendar is a little bit different. On the top left, you have the create button. You can create an event, task, or appointment schedule. Functionally, these are just ways to categorize things. They end up kind of being the same. You can hit that, and then it will ask you time zone, title, all that information. If you want to get into the menu I was showing you earlier, you would just hit more options, which would just bring up that larger single page that looks like this, where you're able to do everything. The other way to create events is just to select the time frame you want. So for this case, I'm going to say that I'm going to work on the library public computers after the drop-in, and I will select by pressing my mouse down and then just dragging until I have the block of time I want the event to take. I release, and then you can see it already has the date and time for the event set up. So I would then set this to public computers. I would add the location as the Peterborough Town Library. Peterborough Town Library. I will say that it is in my work calendar and hit save. And now it has created an event for me automatically. If you have all day events like birthdays or Valentine's, if you just click up underneath the arrow, or sorry, underneath the date, it will make an all day event. So someone's birthday. Save. So that just makes it an all day event. The reason why all day events are kind of nice is it allows you to see what's happening at the very top, but it doesn't fill up your calendar with that all day event by blocking it off. The reason why this is important is if I also have an event going from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., another event, you can see it kind of starts getting pretty busy. Another event. So it can get kind of difficult to read. Because eventually stuff gets smaller and smaller, and then it gets harder and harder to read. Whereas the full day events at the top always remain pretty easy to see. And if you so happen to want to use tasks, there is a view to allow tasks, which will show up on your event or on your calendar, but you can also view them as an individual thing. Hopefully that didn't confuse anyone. 99.9% of your time, you will be in calendar. I just wanted to mention tasks because I had briefly talked about it. All right, any questions on calendar?
Got one. If I'm using iCal now, if I start switching over or also use the Google Calendar, do they talk to each other?
Yes. Yep. Yep. You can have them talk to each other.
And to the phone? So I could get them all synced?
Yes. If I go to here, if I go to settings, which, sorry, if you go to the gear icon, you go to settings, settings. If you're using iCal from the standpoint of you're using your Gmail address in iCal, the calendars should already be somewhat synced. If you are wanting to put a calendar that does not currently exist in your Gmail account into your Gmail account, you would go to settings, you would go to add calendar, and you would go to from URL or subscribe, or if you're more old school, you would go to import, and then you would have downloaded a file from your previous calendar, and you would upload it into Google Calendar, and it would intake all of that information and apply it to a calendar in your Google account.
And they talk to each other in the future.
If you are using a Gmail calendar on Apple Calendar, then they talk to each other. It's possible, I don't want to like say definitive statements because it's possible that you can create, you can be adding calendar entries to your Apple account, which can share the same email address as your Google account, which can get incredibly confusing. So it really depends on how it's set up, how they talk to each other. But this is how you like guarantee get something into your Google Calendar is through this settings menu. Any questions on anything we discussed? As always, if you have questions like I do, which pop up at the perfect time of 10 minutes after you've left, you can always let Rebecca know. And then she'll either be able to answer you directly, because don't let her fool you, she knows more about this stuff than I do, or she'll get in contact with me, and we can send out that in the email to the group. And if it's, also very interesting, we will just add it to the slides so it will live on in perpetuity. And you can always drop by on Wednesdays at 12, where I generally am at the library and able to help people out more on a one-on-one basis.
I have a question. Hope this isn't a stupid question. I heard you say Google Word. Did you say Google Word at one point?
It's definitely possible I transpose those two things.
Okay. Uh, uh,
Google Docs is Google's version of Microsoft Word.
okay, because I thought to myself, is there something else? And then my next question was going to be, do you prefer Google Word over Microsoft Word? But I think you answered it.
If I am paying money, I prefer Microsoft Word.
Mhm.
If I am not paying money, I prefer Google Docs.
Okay,
Money talks.
okay,
That
thank
being
you.
said, I use both.
Okay, thank you very much. This was great, very helpful.
Tim,
Yeah.
how about, print resources, manuals, the dummies, the oldies, the whatever, because when I go home, I'm gonna wanna look up some of this stuff, because I will have forgotten some of it.
Yep. I will link. I'll send Rebecca links to each one of the things we just talked about: Google Docs, Google Calendar, and Gmail.
Yeah,
I'll send a link to probably a 15 to 30-minute long YouTube video going over specifics. There's a couple people who I like their videos on. I just haven't been able to get through them all to see which one I'd like to link. But hopefully I'll be able to get that information to Rebecca by the end of the day.
Tim, sometimes I receive a Google Doc from somebody else and I can get it up on my screen and read it. But when I go to print it, I can't, because the little thumbnail on my printer shows nothing. And if I go to print, nothing prints. And I have some complicated thing on my Mac of copying that into notes or into something or other, and then I can print it. But is there a way that I can print that Google Doc that somebody sent me?
I mean, it might be a security permissions thing. Generally, what I prefer to do is if I receive someone's Google Doc and I want to print it, is I will either select the option save a copy or export document as a PDF, and then I'll print it.
And you print that PDF document or that saved document, okay.
Yep, I print the saved document. Primarily, the reason why I like to do that is I like to have a current version of what I printed. One of the things that's a benefit to Google documents in general is if you have a link to them, you will then receive the new version if it's ever edited.
Yeah,
Whenever I'm printing something, generally for work purposes, I really need to see a document of what it was when I printed it. Because if I'm using that for some work purpose, I need to see what or how the document existed at that time. Just in case I base information or base what I do off of information in that document. I don't want to come back in a week and have the document changed, because then that may have changed my, I don't know if I'm explaining this properly.
Yeah,
but
I understand.
yeah.
I understand, yeah. So this way, the way you save as, then you have a record of it at the
Yeah.
time that you received it.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Save a copy or export.
Okay, yeah. Oh. When I go to Google Drive, I have a list of suggested files and they all have a little icon in front of them. There's a green X. And there's a W. I assume a green X means it's Excel,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
and a W means Word.
Yep.
And here's a white cross on a green field.
White cross.
And it's-
You might be seeing Google Sheet. That might be Google Sheets.
That's a sheet.
Yeah, Google
Oh.
Sheets. So that's like Excel,
Okay.
like a
And
spreadsheet.
what's this?
That is,
3 lines, horizontal lines.
I think that's Google Docs.
If it's blue, it's Google Docs.
Yeah. And then that's your Word. So that's like the Word doc, PDF.
That's different from this one.
Yes. Yep. So that's like a Microsoft Word doc.
And this one here is
That's a Microsoft Word doc.
a PDF.
That's a
Okay,
PDF. Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, any further questions, let Rebecca know. And as always, drop-ins on Wednesday at 12. And as long as you show up before 12:50, for example, I generally try and stay as late as I can to help everyone who's willing to wait.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. All right, I'm gonna
Thank
go
you.
ahead and hit stop recording.